Zach Gelb. He is on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Zach can be heard nationally every afternoon on the CBS Sports Radio Network. He's a man about town, by the way. He was at the Eagles-Bills game on Sunday night. He was at the Rangers game I saw on Monday. Were you at the Michigan-Ohio State game on Saturday, too?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't bury the lead. I was at the game between Michigan and Ohio State, of course.
I mean, you love going to sporting events still. Oh, you know what? I saw a picture of you and Jim Nantz.
Yeah, I went to the broadcast booth before the game and said hello to Jim, who's been very benevolent to me in my career. I do like going to the games, but I have a lot of friends that know what I do, and they like to go to the games and latch on to the perks that you get when you're hosting a show and you get access to all these tickets. So I took my best friend to the Michigan game. He's a Michigan grad. I went to the Bills-Eagles game because I went to college with Hassan Reddick and Deion Dawkins. They were going up against one another. And the Rangers game, my brother-in-law wanted to go. So a lot of people use me, I feel like.
Yeah, I know the feeling on that one. People wanting to glom on, but it's always a pleasure. It's always, and I
always love the person. I always love the person that I haven't heard from in 10 years. They're like, "Hey, how's it going? By the way, if you ever want someone to go to one of these games, like, would love to go with you." And I'm like, I haven't talked to you in 10 years. I'm good.
I'm thrilled when people, the Winnipeg Jets are coming to play the Panthers. It's a Tuesday night. Can you get me a couple tickets? No problem. How about the person, though, that I haven't heard from the entire year? And then they go, hey, you know what? There's a Panthers-Rangers game on Christmas Eve. You think you can get me on the glass?
My favorite one is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. I hear from people that, oh, you're out there, really in need of 2 tickets. Could you get me face value? I was like, yeah, let me just pull out 10 out of my ass right now, all right?
But Solana rolled his eyes or kind of looked quizzical when you said Jim Nantz has been very benevolent towards you for your career. That Gelb Solana has a very long storied history in radio and broadcast.
No, for sure. And I know, Zach Gelb is a tremendous broadcaster. You really are, Gelb. I was a fan before you started coming on the show. Just think using benevolent in that context there, a little douchey. Like you could have just said, Jim Nantz has always been very kind to me throughout my career.
Well, I wasn't great at the SAT, but the one thing I paid attention to was the vocabulary section of the SAT. So that was just a fancy way of saying generous.
Right. But I mean, Gelb uses words for a living. Like you'd want him to say something a little more flowery than you might hear at your local Publix salon.
You want me to be an erudite man, all right?
I think you could have gone with kind. You could have gone with gracious. You could have gone with just a whole slew of words that wasn't benevolent when describing your relationship with Jim Nantz. I just feel like because it's Jim Nantz, you used a more sophisticated word. I just thought it was a little douchey. That's all. You don't have to agree with me.
I think kind or generous or whatever you just said sounds more douchier because then more people are inclined to understand it. I said benevolent. Some people like, never heard that word before. All right, it sounds fine. It sounds fancy. Away we go.
Right. This guy must be a professional broadcaster. Listen to the words that he's using. So you go to all these events. Did you go to the Jets-Dolphins game?
No, I did not. I was in Ann Arbor, and I was watching that game with my best friend who is a Jet fan. And when that pick 6 happened at the end of the half, I was on the floor, and it had nothing to do that we were drinking. I was just laughing. That was hysterical.
Now, why do you think Robert Saleh is going with Tim Boyle again this weekend for the Jets?
Because he can't go back to Zach Wilson because
everybody knows
Zach Wilson isn't
so
the
when
answer?
You do that, when you yank a guy out like that in a very high-profile manner, especially leading up to the Black Friday game, it's the only game on, you just can't go, even though he has to be better than Tim Boyle.
No, I don't know if he is. That's it. Like, we have now gone through 2 benchings. I say we. The Jet fan has now gone through 2 benchings of Zach Wilson and also Aaron Rodgers coming in. So that ship has sailed. I think it's too painful for the Jet fan to see Zach Wilson. It doesn't matter who they put on the field, but anybody other than Zach Wilson, I don't want to say it's better, but it's easier for the agita that it caused the Jet fans, which they're going to have regardless.
Yeah. So what do they do? Do you believe that Aaron Rodgers, by the way, will be back this season? He got cleared for something today.
They activated the 21-day window. So if he's not back in 21 days on the active roster, then his season's officially over. If he plays this year, it would be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the history of sports because their window to win is next year. They don't have a window to win this year because the line sucks and they're not going to make the playoffs. So what's the point of putting an older quarterback on the field, even though he has had the quickest recovery I've ever seen, and it's miraculous that he's at this point. But what's the point to put him on the field when you're not playing for anything, and the offensive line will probably get him killed and suffering another injury, unfortunately.
How about this, though, as a theory? He has just about every accolade that you could earn as an athlete. Coming back same season from a torn Achilles is something no one's done. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm with you. There's no reason to bring him back. And Solana was mentioning yesterday that he said on, Pat McAfee's show, it'll be based on my health and if there's meaningful games. And obviously there's not going to be meaningful games for the Jets, especially if they're trotting Tim Boyle out there again. So maybe this is something that he can, play for lack of a better term, because no one's done this.
Solana wanted me to use simple words here. Everyone enjoys. So I'll do this in a simple term for Solana so you can understand it. Everyone enjoys getting stroked. He enjoys getting stroked right now and having his name in the news and everyone wondering if he's going to come back. If he comes back, he'll get stroked. If he doesn't come back, he gets stroked for the last 3 weeks and his name's in the news. And then it's all right, I made the right decision because the team's success wasn't there. So I think this is more so about everyone giving Rodgers a nice little back massage.
Do you think the Jets, if he was healthy, do you think the Jets would have been being talked about the way the Dolphins are being talked about right now, which is Dolphins are the cream of the crop in the AFC East. It is their division to win, right? I don't think the Bills are going to be able to make up that kind of ground. You think the Jets would have been in this position?
The Bills got to go 4-1 in their next 5 games to make the playoffs. I don't think that is likely. I think the Jets would be a serious threat to the Miami Dolphins. I did pick the Dolphins before the start of the season to win the AFC East, as you guys know. But in this year, with the AFC being so wide open, I think as long as the Jets could have protected Rodgers, which so far they haven't been able to protect any other quarterback, but maybe it's different with Rodgers throwing the ball and there's different mentality with that team, and maybe he goes and demands them to go get an offensive lineman. I think they would have been a double-digit win team behind that defense. Garrett Wilson would have been better. Breece Hall would have been better, and I think they could have been a threat in the AFC.
Any chance that Bill Belichick is back with the Patriots next season?
I think there's a chance, but I would lean on the side that he's somewhere else next year. And I've been saying this since October. Bill Belichick needs more talent. The Chargers need a coach. I think that's a marriage that should happen, but probably the Spanos family will be too cheap.
Zach Gelb is with us from the CBS Sports Radio Network. Let me shift over to college football for a second because we were talking about Michigan, Ohio State there. First of all, let me ask you this general question, because it's transfer portal time here in Miami. There are certain fan bases right now that are worried about conference championship games and college football playoffs. We're focused on the transfer portal, who's in, who might become available. Yeah. Tyler Van Dyke, obviously, transferring from Ja'Cory Brown is going to play at quarterback for the Canes Bowl game, wherever it may be. I think, for a lot of people who were against NIL and probably were against transferring so easily, where you don't have to sit out and you just enter your name in the portal. I think a lot of people thought that would ruin college football. Now, it's changed it. There's no question. It's changed it. But has it ruined it in any way, shape, or form for you? You're a big college football fan.
No, because I still look at this season. It was a spectacular season. It really was. And this year is the first time in maybe ever where you could maybe clamor to see more than 4 teams in the college football playoff. Now, I think it's idiotic that they're going to 12 next year. At most, I would expand to 6 or 8. But I think that the only reason you hear a lot about it is because there's a lot of coaches who will leave all the time for more money, that put resistance to it and have some skepticism to it. I actually praised Matt Rule, where I saw the quote today. He said it takes about $1 million to $2 million in the transfer portal or an NIL to get a really good quarterback now in this sport. So here's where I lie on it. When I was in college, I was able to go to a Temple football game, and I was able to do radio reports and make money off of it. I was making money off my ability. So if everyone's getting a piece of a pie and there's a kid that is really damn good and people want to pay him, why shouldn't he be able to get the money in a legal way when in all those other years he was getting it in an illegal matter and then had to deal with all the jackassery that comes with the NCAA with their petulant behavior. Sorry, I know it's a big word for you, Solana, but I have no problem with it, long story short.
Yeah, why don't you just call it bad behavior?
Yeah, that's fine. Stupid, idiotic, morons don't be behavior.
I'm with you. I've said it to Crowder a number of times. One of the things that I think people lose track of is just because you're very successful in college doesn't mean it's going to translate to anything in professional football. Gino Torretta, who comes on with us all the time, he didn't become an NFL star. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. Chris Leak at Florida more recently. Like Chris Leak,
Johnny
college
Manziel,
football player. Tyler Van Dyke. There's guys.
Stetson Bennett.
Their window to earn money off their name, image, and likeness happens to be this small window while they're in college. Period. End of story. So for everyone that says, well, it's for the pros, this is, well, not for everyone. In fact, for most people, it's not. For most people, that's going to be their only window to make some money and be able to cash in on what their skills are.
And there's some legitimate concerns like, are kids making the right decisions, or is it just based off who's going to give them the most money? You also have the transfer portal where if you get a little hard coaching, maybe then you say, bleep this guy, and you end up leaving and going to another school. But isn't that what college is all about? You go, you learn, you make decisions. Some work, some don't, and you try to get better off those decisions that you make.
Well, also, that's the way of the world nowadays.
Yeah.
Like the world has changed. So it's just college sports has changed with it. I mean, listen, you used to get a job and you'd work and maybe your boss was rough on you, but you'd grind it out. People change jobs now like it's nothing. People aren't committed to their employer the way that they were in the past. It's just changed. It's been a paradigm shift.
Yeah, and eventually the money would come to you, but like you just said, if your window is 3 to 4 years in college and then maybe your body doesn't hold up or you're just not that good enough, but you go to a school that has enough passion that embraces your stardom, yeah, that's your window to go make a ton of cash, and then everyone's going to forget about you, 3-4 years from now. So I have no problem with it. Never have, never will.
By the way, because I do want to get to Thanksgiving turkey before we run out of time, with Zach Gelb, who do you want to see in the college football playoffs? Who do you think is the ultimate champion this season?
I think Georgia and Michigan are the two best teams, but I'm kind of hoping that Georgia goes down this weekend because I think in the world of us really not knowing who would get to the national championship game, I do think a Michigan, Oregon, Texas, and then what's the other school and then Alabama getting it. I think those four would be really fun because out of any of those four schools, I can make the case that either any of those four could find a way to win those two games and win the national championship.
But can you see a situation where Alabama beats Georgia, close game, and Georgia still gets in as a one-loss team? I mean, the two-time defending national champions, and they're losing to a one-loss Alabama who I believe only lost to Texas, right? So it's not like it's a bad loss on their end.
Yeah, and Texas beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa by 10. I think if Georgia loses this weekend, all hell needs to break loose, and then there's still a chance to get in. But hey, Ohio State could still backdoor their way in if like three things happens. I'd rather see Georgia in over Ohio State. Ultimately, though, I do think Georgia wins the game, but it's a bit closer than what people think.
Real quick, are you invested in the NBA in-season tournament?
Real quick, no.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm happy that because the Heat got bounced yesterday. I'm happy you don't have to see the court anymore.
Ask me about turkey. Ask me about lasagna. I don't want to do this NBA crap.
Have you watched, by the way, I only saw the standings today. I don't know if you guys, have you watched Victor Wembanyama or San Antonio?
Yeah, I watched a few games so far, Victor Wembanyama.
They've lost 12 games in a row. Did I see that correctly?
And Pop is telling everyone not to boo Kawhi Leonard.
Hey, we didn't even talk about that this week.
Yeah, it happened over Thanksgiving.
Is that the ultimate douchebag move? Like, what on earth possesses that guy to take the PA microphone during a game and castigate a paying crowd? Adults, by the way. This isn't the Little League commissioner. Adults paying their money and tell them to stop booing? Like, sit your ass down. Like, what in God's name got into your head thinking that you should do that at that moment?
I just love that you threw a bag at the end. That's how I know that you were serious. Usually you just hear the word douche. That's it.
Up, man. It fired me up. That was so out of line.
Like, that was ridiculous.
You know, certain people start to think that their opinions on everything are just infallible. And then they decide that they're like the Spurs crowd booing Kawhi Leonard is respect. That's respect. That's not being mean to a guy. That's showing you we know how good you are. And we wish you were still here.
And not only that, when Kawhi and his team hid themselves in a New York City area rehab center when Pop and the Spurs tried to go visit him and they wouldn't tell him where he was, well, I'm sure Pop gave him a standing ovation for that and was very happy with Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, just ridiculous. That hadn't even thought about that since that happened. We didn't even talk about it. So anyway, Zach Gelb, you have changed the Hochman Thanksgiving forever. When you were on with us last week, you had mentioned that you're doing lasagna, right? You weren't even doing turkey for Thanksgiving, correct?
No, we gave the bird to bird. We gave the bird many years ago.
Yeah, and so, and I think I argued with you on it, but as we were having our Thanksgiving meal on Thursday, it's me, my wife, my son. I'm thinking to myself, I waited all day. My wife toiled over this turkey and the stuffing and the gravy and the sweet potatoes, and we're waiting all day. And then when we sit down to eat it, I'm like, do I even love this that much? Like, do I even love this? Would the Hochman family Thanksgiving be any different if we were sitting around a big lasagna or slabs of ribs, enjoying some Coke Zero and having the time of our lives, maybe some curly fries? And so it dawned on me, like, Gelb was right. And then we had Javon Holland on with us yesterday.
I saw that.
And he had pernil, which is Puerto Rican. It's pork shoulder, I think Solana told us.
Yeah.
And I had heard from a bunch of people like you, lasagna, and I've heard from other people do seafood. And so I'm going to free myself from the shackles of that turkey.
Good job. Welcome. We accept you into our family. I saw Solana's plate on Thanksgiving, and I was like, ugh, that looks boring. And then you saw my lasagna with the sausage and the pepperoni on top as well. That looked really damn good. So all you need to know, even Solana was like, man, that lasagna looks good. And then he had to defend and lie to me. Solana, a friend, someone that I love, he had to lie to me and actually say that his Thanksgiving meal was good.
Well, it was. I do think it was good. Was it
your
better
voice
than
just
a lasagna?
went to a different octave there. That's how I know you're lying.
Okay, all right.
But you did. You opened my eyes, Gelb, and I'm never going to make that mistake again. I was doing it for the sake of tradition. There's no time during the year that I would ever say to my wife, you know what? I would love if you made a turkey for the next 8 hours because I can't wait to have a tiny bit of white meat off it.
And you know what? After you said that to your wife, it probably turned her on a little bit, and it was a good night for Mr. Hochman, right?
Actually, it wasn't. So I announced it on Twitter unilaterally, and she happens to like turkey and all the fixins, and she didn't. She was napping on the couch, and then she saw it on Twitter, and she's like, "What is this? Did you make a unilateral decision for our family?" And she still doesn't seem to have bought in at this point. Like, I think she still thinks she's going to be making a turkey next Thanksgiving. I'm telling you right now. She ain't. It's lasagna. It's ribs. It might be pernil. I don't know what it's going to be. It is not going to be turkey.
Would you divorce your wife if she demands the turkey next year?
Yeah, 100%. That's not even, I wouldn't have to think twice. I'd be right in the transfer portal.
Hochman will be at the Gelb Thanksgiving next year. He's entering the Thanksgiving transfer portal.
I still have a tiny bit of eligibility left, but my eligibility is fleeting, if you understand what I'm saying. 54-year-old.
We could use another funny guy at our Thanksgiving. You're welcome.
Zach Gelb, CBS Sports Radio Network. Thank you, Gelby.
Later, guys. Be well.